Today, we're going to be talking about self-consciousness. And you'll find that if you're a trauma survivor, you may well suffer from very extreme self-consciousness. Those who were raised in a household with parents that didn't care about your emotions, therefore had their emotional needs neglected. One of our emotional needs is to receive validation from our parents. And so when your parents don't validate you, when your parents don't build you up, it can cause you to have a low sense of self, to become self-conscious. If your parents were the type of parents to be very judgmental of you, always picking at you, always believing the worst about you. I've heard many stories of mothers that call their daughters prostitutes. What is that dress you're wearing? You look like a prostitute. Don't do your hair like that. Do you want people to think that you're a prostitute? And by the way, they may use a lot dirtier versions of that word. What is their point? What is their objective? Well, those who are egocentric, narcissistic, predatorial persons like to suck up all the oxygen in the room, so to speak, meaning they don't want anyone's ego to be bigger than theirs. And so the very idea that you could just feel good for being you is very unsettling for an abusive, predatorial, toxic parent. And so, yes, even though you're their child, and even though they would espouse to love you, their priorities and their objectives become confused because as an egocentric person, they've learned that their survival is based on being the head honcho, being number one, being worshiped, being praised, having everyone believe that they are the best. And one of the ways they achieve this is by making sure you realize that you are the worst. And so especially we see with narcissistic mothers toward their daughters, the level to which you were cut down growing up is very extreme. Undermined. Every time a daughter of a narcissistic mother has an accomplishment, the narcissistic mother will either cut down the accomplishment or take credit for the accomplishment. Or both. So it's like, hey, you know, I got an A. Well, yeah, it's not an A plus though. And you didn't do very good in your other class. And then they'll go to the friends and be like, look, my daughter got an A. Look what a good mom I am. I'm so proud. And you're like, what the heck? You just made me feel terrible for my accomplishment. What is that all about? Having parents like that causes you to never feel truly good about yourself. It causes you to feel self-conscious because your parents were always judging you. You start to feel like everyone must always judge me because your parents were always picking you apart. You start feeling like everyone's going to pick me apart because your parents laughed at you when you tried to come up with an idea or you made a mistake. You start to think that everyone will laugh at you, and you get a perception of the world that is skewed and distorted because the rest of the world isn't exactly like the hellish emotional environment that you grew up in. And so as an adult, you may just try to go about your normal life and you're walking down the street, and as soon as you see another person walking toward you, what happens? All of a sudden you start becoming self-conscious. Oh boy, how am I walking? How am I holding my arms? Do I look weird? Do I look strange? Are they going to think I'm bad? Are they going to think I'm a bad person? Like, am I taking up too much sidewalk? Boy, I should walk a little bit over. Wow, I shouldn't walk all the way on the grass. That's weird. And you become super self-conscious because you're just walking past a stranger. You could be the type that's constantly apologizing. You're in the grocery store. You're just in an aisle with a person, but because they shared that aisle with you, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. They look at something that's over your shoulder. Sorry. Constantly apologizing as if you're apologizing for your own existence. with the beauty standards in the world, especially again, for women, the beauty standards are designed to make people feel like they are not enough so that they can buy products so that then they will feel like they are enough. But the fact that capitalism and commercialism has allowed companies to push these messages and ideals, it has been very damaging to the conscientiousness and the collective conscience of people. And we see this especially in young women. Some have gone as far as to commit suicide because they believe they were not pretty enough. They believe they were not beautiful enough. And so they become hyper concerned about what other people are thinking about their looks. And some women feel that they cannot even leave their house if they do not have makeup on. Some feel that their arms are flabby and they never want to show their arms in public, so they always wear long sleeves. Some would never want to show their legs, so they always keep their legs covered. And this can happen for men as well. They can become hyper self-conscious about the way they look. And so as a result, they can hide under baseball caps or grow their beard out or just do certain things and avoid social situations because they feel like they're ugly. They feel like people are judging them for how fat they are or how skinny they are. They feel self-conscious. But what really is self-consciousness? When we think about the concept of being self-conscious, it's not totally bad, is it? I mean, after all, it's good for people to be conscious of themselves to some degree. We shouldn't walk around not caring at all about how we look, because that could be too extreme, right? If we didn't care at all, like you just didn't brush your teeth, right? You should feel a little self-conscious about having bad breath, right? Or you should make sure your appearance is presentable, right? Maybe we don't have to take it to the extreme of feeling like we need to look like a beauty queen, but we do want to be presentable. It's good for us to have some level of self-consciousness because we want to make sure we're conducting ourselves in a way that doesn't offend others, right? Because the things that we say could be offensive to people if we're not conscious of what we're saying. And so it can be a good thing to have some level of self-consciousness. So the question is not how do I get rid of my self-consciousness altogether, but the question is how do I balance my self-consciousness so that I'm conscientious, but not low confidence? Well, I'm going to give you a couple keys that you can use on how to overcome self-consciousness. The first key to overcoming self-confidence, consciousness, you're probably going to hate if you are a self-conscious person. This is probably exactly what you do not want to hear me say. But I promise you, even though it's not what you want and it's not what you want to hear, I promise you it works. If you want to overcome self-consciousness, and you should, this will work. What is it? It's facing your fear. Yes, you have to do what you fear the most. Because in reality, as a self-conscious person, what you're dealing with is a fear that gets a little bit misapplied and out of hand. So it becomes like a phobia. And your self-consciousness now blocks you from moving on and achieving and reaching your potential because you're so worried about what everyone's going to think that you cannot live your life. It is getting in the way. You don't wear long sleeves or short sleeves because you don't want anyone to see your arms, but now you're hot all the time and you don't even match the fashion standards. So the irony is that you look worse because you're actually sweating and you're not in style because you're self-conscious about your arms. So do you see the irony of the situations that self-consciousness creates? You see, when you're self-conscious about the way that you look or the way that you sound, you say, oh my God, I don't like the way my voice sounds. So I don't want to ever record my voice. You don't record your voice, then you cannot put out media. If you can't put out media, then how do you spread your message? And so you actually sabotage yourself in your life. It's not adaptive to be overly self-conscious. You see, so the only way to overcome the phobia that's actually getting in the way of your life is to do the very thing that you are afraid of doing. By facing the fear, then you can actually understand what it is you're up against. Because we tend to fear what we do not know. So then the more you know, the less you fear. So you need to gain more knowledge about the very thing that you are fearing. So if it's your arms that you are self-conscious about, you need to wear a short sleeve shirt. Better yet, wear a tank top and go out of your house and walk down the block and around the corner and back. Wear a short sleeve shirt to the grocery store. You're actually going to need to expose yourself to what you fear and then observe. And what you will find is this. As bad as you thought it was going to be, reality doesn't match. Because reality isn't even as bad as your own imagination. What you were fearing was a story you were telling yourself in your head. You were telling yourself that if my arms show, then people are going to say, oh my gosh, your arms are so ugly. And they're all going to laugh at me, or they're all going to think something bad about me, but not say it. And in reality, you got outside and you realized everyone else was just thinking about who? Themselves. Facing your fears, walking directly into what would make you feel self-conscious is the way to overcome self-consciousness. And I can tell you that from experience. You see, this was something that I experimented with in high school, which was the perfect testing grounds for social experimentation. You see, in high school, everyone is hyper self-conscious, and I was no different at 14. I wanted to have all of the name brand clothes because at the time I was in school, you had to have certain brands if you wanted to fit in and to be in style and to be looked at as acceptable. And so I pressured my mom, we got to get all the name brand clothes. I just want these name brand clothes. Don't take me to Target and Kmart. No. We need certain names on the clothes, and it's got to be big. We had to have the name across the chest, right? But then I started to think, somewhere around my sophomore year, is this really the way to where I would like to go? You see, because if I keep playing this game, then I'm always behind. If I keep chasing people's approval, then I'm always in the back. I'm always going to be chasing it. This will last the rest of my life. But if I let it go, then perhaps I may find on the other side of it that I never needed to chase it in the first place. Perhaps I may find on the other side of it that people approve of you more when you are yourself than when you are trying to gain their approval. And I found just that. As soon as I let go of the concept of being cool and I stopped trying to be cool, well, then I was the coolest. And you can ask anyone from my high school, everyone at all grade levels knew who Roman Zanoni was. But the reason they knew who I was not because I was trying to fit in. No, just the opposite. I would seek opportunities to not fit in. I would actually purposely try to do things that would cause myself embarrassment. Why? Well, it was an experiment, but I had a hypothesis that if I purposely bring the embarrassment on myself, I could make myself immune to embarrassment. And if I'm immune to embarrassment, well, then there's nothing I can't do. There's nothing holding me back, because our fear of feeling less than, judged, and embarrassed is what holds us in so tight. It limits us. And so I put that experiment to test, and I would do things like act as uncool as possible. I would act as nerdy as possible. One day I came to school dressed as a nerd. I one time wore all of my clothes backwards. I would occasionally lay down in the hallway instead of walking to class, and let people walk over me. I one time for a school fashion show, I was asked to be one of the models on stage, and there's a group of kids and we're modeling these clothes, and I saw this golden opportunity. You see, the stage was elevated above ground, and I thought, boy, I could fall off the back of the stage. And the irony of that is that would be any kid's worst nightmare, because the whole school was in the auditorium at the time. So with a whole school in the auditorium, I could try to fit in and just do what I'm supposed to do, or I could actually take the opportunity to sabotage myself and stand out, falling off the stage on purpose. And as people would know me, they would know that I actually fell off the stage on purpose, and it will elicit a big laugh. And so I decided to do it. And so my opportunity came, and I looked off the back of the stage, and I walked in such a way that I tripped on purpose and fell off of the stage in front of the entire school. And it was great. I got written up in the school newspaper. And everyone, no one talked about the fashion show. They talked about how Roman fell off the stage. But you know what was funny is everyone knew that I did it on purpose. And there is a genius in purposely doing things that should have been considered embarrassing, because it didn't make me look uncool, because the fact that I was trying to seem uncool suggested that I must be cool. You see, by trolling the school assembly, I made the school assembly seem as if it were actually beneath me, just by pure implication. And the result? Well, the result is, yes, I overcame self-consciousness. And as a result, throughout the rest of my life, I realized I could live my life free of concern for what other people thought, because I had faced that fear and found what was on the other side. And it wasn't judgment. It was the most amount of acceptance you could possibly have. I was voted most likely to be famous in my class. So how can you overcome your self-consciousness? Well, let me give you another tool besides facing your fear, and that's to elevate your consciousness. You see, being self-conscious, even in the term, it sounds like you're self-absorbed. But here's the irony of self-consciousness. When you're self-conscious, in reality, you're just conscious of everyone else all the time, right? Because when you are walking down the street, when you are alone, you're fine. As soon as you see another person, then you become self-conscious. You're concerned of other people seeing you. It's not really self-consciousness. What we describe as self-consciousness is actually being too conscious, too hyper-concerned of what everyone else is thinking. And that is maladaptive, because you've put yourself into a prison of everyone else's opinions, and in reality, you don't even know what they're thinking. That is maladaptive. It doesn't work. It is not helpful to ourselves to be hyper concerned of what everyone else is thinking. We call it self-consciousness, but really it's everyone else consciousness. What's the reality of other people's opinions? Isn't it true that people are fickle? Isn't it true that people change their minds all the time about everything? Like, they will literally be like, you are so awesome. I love that dress on you. I love it. And then 2 seconds later, they'll be like, oh, I hate her. Like, what? People change constantly. I'll say, oh, I love that guy. He's so awesome. And then the guy does something wrong. I hate him. He needs to get out of here. 100%. You see that in how people interact with celebrities, right? The same people that persecute you for what makes you different will end up later following you for having vision. Probably you yourself have disliked someone and then later decided, oh, actually, I do like them. Probably you yourself have felt that way. Or you did like someone and then later on decided, I don't like them. In fact, I strongly dislike them. Probably you've had experiences where someone didn't like you, but then later decided they do like you, or vice versa. Someone did like you, and then all of a sudden they stop being your friend. What's the point? The point is that people's opinions don't matter because they always change. So whatever the hot opinion is of you at this moment, stick around, it'll change. Don't worry about it. Don't worry what people are thinking about you. It will change. It is not permanent. It is not etched in stone. So yes, sometimes people will get the wrong opinion of you. That's okay. Some people have the right opinion of you and they just don't like it. That's okay. Can you please everyone? No. Persons with complex trauma think that they can. They hope that they can because they learned in their household pleasing everyone is the only thing they could do to survive. And so now they're continuing to live in this world of fear that they have to keep everyone happy and please everyone and make sure everyone's good and comfortable. But that's false. It's maladaptive. It's distorted thinking. Now that you're in the real world, you need to recognize one simple fact. You will never please everyone. The sooner you get that, the faster you can actually find people that you can please. Because no presidential candidate says, okay, to announce my candidacy for president, let's get the opposing party all together in a room and just talk to the opposing party about whatever we got to do to please them. No, because they know they will never please the opposing party, short of giving up everything they believe in. They rally their supporting party together. The sooner you give up trying to please everyone, the faster you can find your supporting party, the faster you can find your tribe, your people, because you attract your tribe by being yourself, by being authentic. Don't worry about what people are thinking because most of them are focused on themselves. They're actually focused on what you're thinking of them. So that would be a waste of your time to be worried about what they were thinking of you while they're worried about what you're thinking of them. That's a waste. Don't worry about what people are thinking because whatever their opinion is at the moment, it can change just like that. And people like to go with what's popular. Do you remember Billy Bush, the reporter who lost his job for a conversation he had with Donald Trump? And for that same conversation, while he lost his job, Donald Trump went on to become the president. How? How is it that he loses everything while another person gains everything and both are in the same room having the same conversation? Because what people think doesn't matter. It's fickle. It's not what you cannot base your entire life on people's opinions and decisions of you because it doesn't make sense. Do you recall that Robert Downey Jr. used to have a reputation for being like a drug addict and some sort of scandalous actor before he got the role as Iron Man and becomes a darling of the Walt Disney Company? He went on to become very, very successful and respected as an actor. But don't forget, there was a time he was not viewed that way. Or you might remember the same about Ellen. She was doing well as a comedian, had her own show. She wrote a book. Everything was going well. She started to go public with her lifestyle, and the public turned on her. She ended up getting canceled. Her sitcom got canceled. And she entered into a dark period of her life. And then what happens? Over time, she comes out with her talk show and she goes into the stratosphere of success. What happened? People's opinions just change. Can you worry about what people are thinking of you? A lot of people didn't think Martha Stewart would overcome the scandals of her white collar crime, but she went on to make as much, if not more, money than she was making before. What's the point? You cannot base your self-esteem and your self-worth off of what someone else thinks. Stick around. Their opinion's going to change. Whatever the latest idea is, it's going to pass. People are not paying attention to you. And if they notice you, they may actually be intimidated by you while you're worried about what they think. The key to not making a difference is to try to be the same. If you try to fit in this world, you can end up becoming invisible. If you would like to make a difference, then you need to focus on your purpose, because you can overcome self-consciousness by elevating your consciousness to what you can do for mankind. How can you use your gifts to help others, to improve the lives of another person? Because when you have purpose, then it's easier for you to determine if something is helpful toward your purpose or if something is harmful toward it. And you will find that being overly self-conscious is hurtful to your purpose. So you have to face the fear. You have to let it go. You have to elevate your consciousness and be focused on your purpose. And search out for yourself what is truly helpful. Ask yourself, is it helpful for me to be self-conscious in this situation? Or is it actually hurting me? Because it may be proper at times, if you're going up in front of a lot of people, to care about your looks at that moment. Make sure what you're wearing and your face is put together and your hair is put together. That's a good self-conscious. But it goes too far if now your speech has started and you're still thinking about, oh God, but my hair's not perfect. Oh man, there's some things that I didn't get right. You're still thinking about that while you're supposed to be speaking. Now your self-consciousness has crossed over into becoming maladaptive, meaning it's not helpful anymore. So we got to back it up, stop it where it's helpful, and say, okay, I've done what I could. I got to let it go now, face the fear, go forward. Don't worry about what people think, and walk right into everything it is that you fear so that you can achieve everything that it is you dream of.